We are here, Sactown Sports, Stiles and Watkins. Sactown Sports Road Trip to Radio Row in Las Vegas is brought to you by our friends at Jiffy Lube. When it's time for a road trip, visit Jiffy Lube for all your automotive maintenance needs. Jiffy Lube is your road trip headquarters, joined by Torrey Smith, former 49ers wide receiver, former Ravens wide receiver, two-time Super Bowl champ, former Eagles wide receiver. Torrey, thank you for joining us.
Hey, appreciate y'all having me.
Man, so let's just start here. You played with the Ravens when they beat the Niners.
Yeah.
Is this finally the year that the Niners break through and get number 6?
Man, I believe so. I think the talent's there. I think the culture's there. They're battle tested, right? They've been here before. And I think it's just time. I think Brock Purdy's a guy that can help lead this team to victory. I think they have a great balance on the offensive side of the ball and what C-Mac can do, and so many different playmakers over there. So I think at the end of the day, if they can protect the football on offense, establish their run game, because the Chiefs, their weakness really is the run game. The Ravens didn't stick to that, but that's one of their biggest weaknesses. If they can get that going, I think some great things can happen for them. If they can also lead us out, you got to be able to get to Patrick Mahomes without blitzing. So you're going to need a big game out of those front four to go out there and get it done.
Torrey, you played in San Francisco, actually, the 2 years before Shanahan got there. How can you speak to just the different culture that it seems like he's brought there, and just how different things seem to be now than they were when you were there?
Oh, man, it's amazing for him. I mean, I was one of the first people kicked out. So, to see what's happening with the new regime, it took them some time to get it right. But they're one of the best organizations in ball. And I think they deserve their flowers. I think Jed York deserves his. I gave him his flowers earlier because I remember, and I know y'all probably were talking about him on this same radio station. He doesn't know what he's doing. We got to get somebody else. But the reality of it is he's built a product that's among the best in the league. And year in, year out, we all know fans want to win the Super Bowl each and every year. But year in, year out, when this season starts, the 49ers stand a chance. And that's all you can ask for. And I think they've done a great job. And Coach Shanahan and John Lynch, their partnership together, leadership-wise, I think they've done an excellent job. And, again, when you mention the top organizations, it doesn't matter that they haven't won a Super Bowl in some time, right? When you talk about the top organizations in terms of their team standing a chance, they're amongst the top 3. And I think this is the year they get over the hump.
Talking to Torrey Smith, two-time Super Bowl champ, wide receiver for the Ravens, the Niners, and the Eagles. So, Torrey, when you talk about Brock Purdy, and a lot of people likened it last year to Jeremy Lin, is he just on a hot streak? You played with the guy, not to take anything away from Nick Foles, but that was a guy that got really hot, right? He's a good quarterback, but he played out of his mind. How can you differentiate a hot quarterback from somebody like Brock Purdy possibly making his way into the elite category?
Man, he's been consistent, right? I'm looking, my guy Cam is right behind us. Right?
Can't miss him.
I grabbed a selfie with him earlier.
That's my brother right there. But the reality of it is he's kind of been unfairly criticized. Right. I think he's proven that you can win because he's your quarterback.
Right.
And when you go and you look at who's won the Super Bowl over the last 12 years, most of the faces are Tom Brady anyway. Right. So what are we talking about here? Right. There are very few guys that actually win it. So if you're going to punish him for not winning it, it's about, can you win because he's your guy? Do you stand a chance? Right. That's what everyone's hope is. And Brock Purdy is that guy. He's been very consistent managing this team, playing his role, making plays when they need him. He made plays with his feet last week. Right. Turned from a game manager to a game changer. Right. But I think he's shown that he can do that. And he's their franchise quarterback. And I think the 49ers know that. And, I think the fans need to get all the way on board with it as well, because I talked about it before. People like to think that a franchise quarterback has to look one way. And it doesn't. You put a great team around him. Why are you punishing him for what we wish every quarterback had? Real weapons, right? A running game, a great coordinator, right? A solid offensive line, right? They can be a little better, but they have some solid pieces up front. He has what most quarterbacks go. So now you have fans criticizing, well, any quarterback can be in that system and do well. Well, they aren't. And he is. So you have a guy that can go out there and get it done. Keep it there, because you've seen how it looks when you're playing musical chairs. Clearly, if it was that easy, everyone could do it, and it's not. So give that man his respect.
Do you think that a Super Bowl changes any of that conversation, or do you think it's always going to be there with him?
It changes it for a moment. Right? It changes it for a moment, and at the end of the day, who cares?
Right.
Right? Who cares? He's going to win the Super Bowl. I'm going to speak it into existence because I want it to happen, right?
Love it.
He's going to win the Super Bowl. He's going to be making a lot more than $800,000 coming here soon, right? Which changes the GM's got to work a little bit harder with the salary cap once that happens, right? And draft-wise, it changes. But the reality of it is this 49ers team is built to win, and it helps when you have a cheap quarterback, right? But he's their franchise guy, right? And it's going to happen.
Talking to Torrey Smith, two-time Super Bowl champ, played for the Eagles, the Niners, the Ravens. Torrey, you were a wide receiver in this league, right? And when I was coming up, when Chris and I were coming up, there were the Megatrons and these big dudes. Do you see an evolution of the wide receiver with some of these smaller, quicker guys that don't always have to play in the slot like they traditionally had to? Or has it always been there and it's just the schemes that are changing?
Yeah, I think it's kind of always been there. You know, the generic receiver probably is built more like me, like in that 6'1", 6'2" type area. Flirting around 200 or, you know, give or take around there. I mean, you think of the top guys in the game, just rambling off the top of my head, Devontae Adams, give Ayuk his respect, right? Put him up there in that top 10, right? Give him his respect. Like, those guys are more so in that 6'1", 6'2" range. But I think the difference you're seeing is receivers are going to be better and better every year.
Yeah.
Right? Better than our GOATs.
Yeah.
Right? And old heads hate when I say that, but it's the truth. It's because you're watching kids now that played 7-on-7, right? Our GOATs were better from playing outside. Right. They weren't being. Everyone knows a trainer these days, right? These kids are different. And I'm only going by because I coach in the youth space. I have my own 7-on-7 team, and I'm watching quarterbacks make throws and reads, and you know terminology that I didn't learn until I got to Maryland, right? So like, the development and stuff is going to be a lot further. Now, my son's 9 years old. That joker can read the coverage at receiver. He give you press release. He can tell you what they're doing, what he has to like. It's just completely different. So I think receivers, they're all going to be more dynamic because of the type of training that exists and because of what people know. And our old heads have to accept it. Maybe Jerry Rice's records are never going to be broken because they're a longevity stat, but there's going to continue to be receivers that are more talented receivers than our GOATs from the past.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, just as a part of being a receiver and the evolution of the receiver position is the pay of the receivers. I mean, you're seeing receiver contracts being thrown out that look insane.
Man.
And a part of it, too, is the running backs feel like they're being devalued. So just how does that work is it just kind of it's how it goes with times? How do you kind of view that conversation with running backs kind of be devalued, but receivers seem to be at a premium?
I mean, it's just the business, you know. I mean, I wish one of y'all had a time machine push me back 10 years, man.
Right.
I mean, you got to think. What I was at high end number 2 money at $8 million. If you're a starter, you're in double digits.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I think so. It's crazy, but it goes to show, you know, when it comes to this position, when the salary is relative to the business of football.
Right.
So you see these high salaries, it lets you know the sport is growing. The sport is thriving, right? And I think that's the part that's kind of hard to put in because I think about even being in San Francisco, one of the best parts about it was seeing all these legends that come back and they're around all the time. And there are some that I truly admire, like Joe Montana. I think of Ronnie Lott. These guys were, and people don't know this, like they were transformative in what they did off the field.
Yeah.
So you know them for their players, but they weren't making the millions like these guys were making now. Well, they make a whole lot of money now by their investments and things like that, but they weren't doing that. And so I think what you're able to see with the money, like, what I was getting to was like, you got the old school guys. They're like, oh, man, these guys making all this money. We didn't do that. Well, the game wasn't as popular. The TV deals weren't the same. So it's just a byproduct of the business, man. And I love it because each and every time someone gets paid, you're watching an entire family that's going to be able to transform in terms of generational wealth if they take care of business. And I really love that for the guys.
Yeah.
Torrey Smith, thank you so much for joining us, man. 2-time Super Bowl champ with the Ravens and the Eagles, but he's picking the Niners to get it done. Torrey Smith, thank you so much for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your time in Vegas.
Hey, appreciate y'all having me.
We'll be right back with more Stiles and Watkins in Vegas, brought to you by Jiffy Lube.